Good morning. Let us be very still for a moment. We are not here to win an argument with a bank balance, nor to amass spiritual tips and tricks for a better budget. We are here for healing. Healing begins when we cease treating symptoms and touch cause. So let me give you the jolt at the outset so we don't wander an inch. Stop treating money. Treat consciousness. If that sounds abrupt, let it be so. Sometimes a gentle room needs a firm bell. There is no such thing as a money problem. There is only the belief that money is cause. In other words, the ache you feel is not the bank statement. It is the hypnotism that says the bank statement is your life. Be still and know that I am God. Not money is God. Not markets are God. I am. That I, that inner presence, is our subject. We will not handle cash, markets, or ledgers in this class. We will handle the only causative principle realized, presence, the I that I am. I will say to you at the start what I always promise a class. If a thing has not unfolded to me, I won't say it. I'm not here to impress you with opinions, but this has unfolded, and it has proved itself where it matters, right where fear counted out coins at midnight. Money is in supply. I is supply. I embody supply. The forms, dollar bills, contracts, clients are fruit. They are not root. And you don't prune fruit to heal a tree. You turn to life in the root. So the question that must live between us all through today is simple. What changes when I treat the cause rather than the cash? Immediately, attention withdraws from effects. Immediately, fear begins to loosen its hands because fear thrives on pictures of bills and scarcity and clocks. But the moment you move your gaze within to the I, you move out of the photograph and into the life. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. He didn't say, seek first a better income plan. He said, the kingdom-conscious union. Then the forms fall in line. Added, not achieved by struggle, not stolen, not bargained for added. Don't misunderstand. I'm not asking you to neglect your responsibilities or throw away the calculator. I'm asking you not to invest power in it. We are not going to massage numbers. We are going to realize God. When I consciously make contact with God, when the heart knows I am that I am, then I am at one with the idea that appears as rent paid, as bread on the table, as wisdom directing a phone call. The outer adjustments are the shadows cast by an inner light, and the light never strains to cast a shadow. I know the mind wants more technique and more immediate assurance. It says, but what shall we eat? What shall we drink? Wherewithal shall we be clothed? And the Master's answer remains the same today. Your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. Don't you see? Before a word is in your mouth, the I within is the knowing, the law, and the fulfillment. Our work is to acknowledge that, not to create supply, not to pull strings, but to bear witness to the presence that is already the law of fulfillment. If you listen with your heart, there is already a little relief in the room. The pressure to make something happen is ebbing. Don't try, live it, exemplify it. Let that sentence rest on you. Stop treating money. Treat consciousness. We will go no further than that today unless it is living in you even as I say it. And if it isn't, be honest. Say to yourself, it hasn't unfolded to me yet, and be at peace. There is no condemnation in that. There is only an invitation. My kingdom is not of this world. Yet it appears through this world as what we call daily bread. We will keep our attention there on cause until almost shyly results begin to arrange themselves. And when they do, you will recognize them not as the prize of your effort, but as the overflow of an indwelling grace. Now let us turn the lens from cash to cause, for this is the heart of the matter, and it will not help to keep walking round it politely. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. That is not a slogan, it is a principle. Until that principle takes root in you, you will still be tempted to pet the fruit and neglect the life. In other words, you will still look to a paycheck, a client list, a ledger, and ask them to be your God. Cease ye from man whose breath is in his nostrils, the prophet said, and I add, cease ye from dollars whose ink is on their faces. They are not the life. Be still and know that I am God. That I, that inner presence, is the fountain. Forms are its shadows. Let me put it where you can smile at it. Walk with me into an orange grove. You see sunlight, leaves, branches bending with fruit. But where is the supply? Is it a round orange? Pick it. Eat it. Spend it as you will. If you imagine the orange is the life, you will live in fear of empty branches. Yet the life of that tree is invisible activity, the sap rising, the rootedness drawing from unseen law. The oranges are what life does in due season. They are not what life is. So with dollars are to supply what oranges are to life: appearance, evidence, fruit. You cannot fertilize an orange and expect a tree. You cannot rub a coin and make a harvest. Tend the root, and in season you smile at fruit without anxiety. Ignore the root, and you can paste paper oranges on a branch and still go hungry. Now, identity is the root of this. Who are you? A seeker chasing forms, or the child of God, joint heir with Christ? If you are the latter, and I say to you that you are, even if you don't feel it at this minute, then supply is not outside to be petitioned. I and my Father are one. That oneness is the secret place of the Most High. Within that oneness there is an incorruptible substance, the very life that appears as rent met, as bread broken and shared, as right work in right season. My God shall supply all your need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. Not according to markets, not according to your last mistake, according to his riches and glory and invisible treasury unfolding as necessary visibility. When I consciously make contact with God, I am at one with every idea that appears as form. It doesn't have to be cranked out by effort. It comes forth as birth. It may be a phone call you did not plan, an opening you could not have reasoned, but the source is the same. I is supply. I embody supply. Stop chasing forms. You cannot serve God and mammon because the very act of chasing enthrones effect as cause. We are not refusing forms. We are refusing to bow to them. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added like oranges, added to a living tree, not sorcery performed upon a barren stick. And I know the mind wants to do something to hurry the oranges. It wants to sprinkle affirmations like fertilizer and stand over the branches with a clock. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Sit in the quiet until you know, quietly, I am the branch of the vine, and the life of the vine is my life. Then leave the fruit alone. The life knows what to do. So our movement is a simple inward turning from cash to cause, from the photograph to the life, from the outer chase to the inner acknowledgement. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. If fullness belongs to the Lord, and if I and my Father are one, where is lack? Only in a hypnotized sense that money is root. Let that veil be lifted. Let the word rise in you almost like a shy dawn. Money isn't supply, I is supply, I embody supply. As that takes hold, you will notice not with fanfare, not with strain, that life begins to appear where you once feared emptiness. Fruit in due season, forms in right proportion, and you at rest in the root. Now we must face plainly the thing that has been frightening you, the picture. The picture on paper, the number on a screen, the way a month looks when it is tallied by a pen. Hear this gently, but hear it thoroughly. There is no matter, no material substance, no material law governing supply. What we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell is not a creation. It is a mental image about creation. The photograph is not the life. In other words, what you call my balance is a report about activity. It is not the activity itself. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Don't argue with the photograph. Don't plead with the shadow. Turn to the light that casts it. Take a bank book. Take a statement. I know the feeling, the heart quickens, the breath shortens, and the mind begins to draft its little sermons, too little, too late. But that book, that line of figures, is a photograph of an invisible activity. If you walked into a dark room and didn't like the way your face looked in the glossy print, would you take a razor to the paper? No. You would go to the life. A bank book can be delayed in the mail, misprinted by a clerk, calculated by old data. It can be 2 days behind a living river. It can say insufficient while a wire is already en route. The paper reports after the fact. The activity is the invisible consciousness, unfolding itself as ideas, opportunities, protection, guidance. The photograph cannot lead the life. It can only witness to what life has already been doing. Lack, then, is not a thing. Lack is a picture in belief, a mental image without spiritual law to sustain it. There is no law of God maintaining an absence of God, do you see? If God is the substance of all form, then an image of no form can have no law to keep it alive. It seems to have life because fear stares at it. The things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. The temporal is the picture, the eternal is the presence. When fear does the viewing, the picture grows larger. When the heart turns to eye, the picture fades to its proper function as a report, not a ruler. So, the practice is not to wrestle a bill or rebuke a number. Do not argue with appearances. Lay the paper down, close the app, and be still. Be still and know that I am God, not I am lack, not I am the balance. I am God. Turn from the picture to the presence, from numbers to life. Let the inner acknowledgement come, even faintly at first. I and my Father are one, and in that oneness I embody supply. The same law that adds oranges to the tree adds forms to life in due season. I am not under figures. Figures are under grace. Sit a moment until this is not a sentence you recite, but a presence you feel. Then, if you must make a call, write a letter, adjust an account, do it as one who has already returned to the root. You are acting from life, not begging the photograph to be kind. Do not be surprised if the first miracle is not the number changing, but the fear dissolving. That is the sign that the hypnotism has been touched. The picture may still say what it says for an hour or a day, but its sting is gone because you have been weaned from its authority. And when the fear is out, guidance is in. A quiet idea arrives. A forgotten credit appears. A piece of work lights up as yours to do. I don't know how it will show because, to be honest, the forms are God's business, not ours. Our business is to abide. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Peace is the first fruit, and where peace rests, order follows. Keep this very simple. The photograph is never cause. The bank book is a witness, and sometimes a poor one. Life is cause. God is the substance of all form. If you catch yourself gawking at the picture, adding it, subtracting it, scolding it, smile, and turn. In other words, withdraw the faith you placed in ink and place it in the indwelling I. Let presence define you, not paper. Then watch tenderly and without strain as the picture comes into line with the life that has quietly been your sufficiency all along. Now let us look at the bookkeeper you have been employing without knowing it. Fear. When fear does the accounting, you are under cosmic law, sowing and reaping, debit and credit, eye for eye, interest upon interest. In that jurisdiction, the figures seem to grow teeth. A late fee begets a penalty begets another notice, a notice begets anxiety, and anxiety writes itself back into experience. This is the realm where law is exact and, as we say, unforgiving. The law came by Moses, and in that law, if you sow to fear, you reap fear's harvest. In other words, consciousness is always cause, and what fear sows in thought returns as conditions that bear its signature: tightness, delay, shortage, dread. Now, notice the pattern, because it is subtle. Anxiety about debt becomes guilt about having it. Guilt becomes self-condemnation, and self-condemnation ties you to the old ledger as if iron bands held it shut upon your name. You glance at a bill, and a little voice whispers, "You did this, you failed, you are behind." That voice is the bookkeeper of cosmic law, and as long as you agree with it, you sign the ledger with your own hand. With what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. If you mete to yourself judgment, judgment measures back. If you mete to yourself blame, blame calls more of itself into the room. Do you see how the wheel turns? And I know how convincing it seems. The letter arrives, the number stares, the breath shortens, the mind drafts its little arithmetic of doom. But remember what we have learned. The picture is not cause. The picture is a report. The cause is your believing, and the presence you acknowledge. Here is the higher court. But grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. You are only under cosmic law until you realize grace. The moment grace is realized, even faintly, the sentence begins to melt. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. No condemnation. Not less condemnation. None. Why? Because grace is not a plea for mercy under law. Grace is the setting aside of law's claim upon you. The power of grace has set aside cosmic law. In the record of grace, you are the child of God, joint heir with Christ, and no spiritual statute upholds a penalty against God's own image. Perfect love casteth out fear, and with fear cast out. The bookkeeper is dismissed. In that instant, the account that seemed to own you no longer has jurisdiction over you. It may still exist on paper for a day, but it no longer dictates your life because you no longer consent to its authority. Please understand what we are doing here so you do not descend into more bookkeeping. We are not going to fix entries in the ledger. We are not going to argue line items, cross out penalties, and write holiness in the margins. We are stepping into a jurisdiction where the ledger cannot bind. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. Liberty is not the tweaking of chains, it is their absence. In other words, we move out from the law and into grace. We move out from reaping what fear has sown into witnessing what love is always being. The forms will appear as correction, perhaps an adjusted bill, a waived fee, a new opening, a wise arrangement you had not considered, but the correction is the shadow of a higher decree. I can tell you quietly that I have seen this decree work where any sane man would have said, too late. Men and women under sentences, financial and otherwise, set free without manipulation. A woman with a tax lien sat in the stillness until there rose the simple knowing, I and my Father are one. There is no law against that oneness. Peace came first. Then a letter came, an audit review, that refigured the entire matter, reducing the demand to a fraction and setting terms she could meet without strain. Was it magic? No, it was grace overruling law. Another, a tradesman drowning in interest, woke from fear's fog with a single, clear direction to make a call he had resisted. The man he feared turned out to be an ally. Terms were revised, the noose loosened. But hear me, the outer forms were not the cause. The cause was a shift of jurisdiction. How do you move into that jurisdiction? The same way you turn from the photograph, by conscious contact. Sit down, not to bargain, not to plead, but to acknowledge what is eternally true. My grace is sufficient for thee. Let that be your inner court. Be still until condemnation cannot find you. Be still until the sentence you were carrying as your name drops to the floor like an old garment. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. And when you rise to act, if action is given, act as one already pardoned, not as one begging parole. Then the life of grace will arrange the outward papers. It may be today, it may be 3 months, it may be in a way you could not script. I don't know. That hasn't unfolded to me for you yet. But this I do know. Fear ties you to the penalties of cosmic law. Realize grace overrules that law and ends the sentence. Keep your attention on presence and let the old ledger close itself without your signature. Now, if you ask, what do I do when the bill is due? This is where the healer's secret comes round to your doorstep. In spiritual work, we never treat a patient or a disease. We do not enter into combat with an effect. We behold cause. We behold God as the substance, law, and life of all. In other words, you do not treat cash. You treat consciousness. You do not massage figures or charm circumstances. You acknowledge the I that I am as the one presence and power appearing as all rightful form. The only thing that is ever healed is the sense of a self apart from I alone, lacking, condemned to earn life by fear's arithmetic. Heal that sense, and the pictures adjust of themselves. Let me set it in an ordinary frame where you can feel your way into it. A woman came with a simple panic, a bill due Friday, and her mind racing to hustle channels, borrow here, ask there, juggle something else the week after. You know that storm. She sat down and, well, I asked her not to do anything to the bill. Don't treat the cash. Close the eyes to the photograph and turn within. Be still and know that I am God. Not that I will be, not that I ought to be, but I am. Sit as one who can afford to be still because life is the payer and the payee. She did. Minutes at first, the heart slowed. A warmth rose unasked. A word arrived, nothing splendid, just I and my Father are one. She stayed there until the thought of herself as a desperate borrower fell off like an old coat. Then, without strain, a simple instruction floated up. Call the office not to plead, but to state calmly what is so. She called. Before she spoke a sentence, the man on the line said, "We've been revising our terms. I can extend this a week and remove the late fee." Meanwhile, that afternoon, a small refund posted from a place she had forgotten. 2 threads met one cloth. Was that the cause? No. The cause was the realization of oneness. The forms were added. Do you see? As pardon set prisoners free, grace sets aside the penalties that gather around fear. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Do not turn the key by struggling at the bars. Make contact with Spirit and watch the hinges loosen. Fees are waived. Deadlines revised. Doors that were shut open, not always in that hour, not always through that channel, but often enough that you learn a holy rhythm. Grace overrules law. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. When you stand in that no condemnation, The punishments drafted under cosmic law lose their teeth. Anchor here. The presence that heals a body reveals supply. For there is but one cause and many forms. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? If life is the more, meat and raiment are the less added forms. The same Christ that speaks, "Wilt thou be made whole?" speaks to your affairs, "Peace, be still." When I consciously make contact with God, I am one with every idea that appears as the exact pattern of sufficiency, a call to make, a task to accept, a waste to end, a generosity to receive. Not the sweat of planning, but the ease of guidance. Thy faith hath made thee whole. Whole one, not two. Not a spiritual self inside and a financial self outside, but one I that embodies supply. So when the picture presses, do this first and last. Do nothing to the money. Sit. Acknowledge, I and my Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. Stay until the inner weather clears. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. If action is given, take it as one already supplied, not as one begging the world to be kind. If silence is given, keep silence, and let love's invisible activity move into visibility in its own way. You will find that what was begging has become beholding, what was hustling has become following. And the forms, yes, the very ones that seem so rigid, will come into order. Why? Because the sense of a separate, needy self has been healed. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Stand there, and the cash will discover its proper place as fruit, not root, as witness, not cause. Before we go an inch further into methods, we have to speak of ethos, of how you carry this. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Teaching follows demonstration. It never precedes it. The letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. If you give a student a letter before you yourself have let the Spirit write it in your heart, you are handing them a stone for bread. In other words without embodiment are more burden, not help. So before you advise anyone about money, supply, timing, channels, sit down and let the principle take root in you. Let it become flesh of your flesh and bone of your bone. I is supply. I embody supply. Until that lives, keep quiet. Silence is truer than an unright truth. I can tell you plainly, because I don't wish to stand here on stilts, I have tried to teach too soon. Years ago, a small class in a rented room, fear in my pocket, scripture on my tongue. I spoke beautifully about invisible supply and went home to count coins. I begged and pleaded with myself not to face the gap between my sentences and my state. It was torture. Some pages I wrote in that season, I was ashamed of them. I asked that they not be printed. Why? Because the principle had not yet taken root in me. The Spirit had not breathed on the letter. And then, slowly, through practice, correction, sitting in the dark until dawn, the thing moved from my head to my marrow. After that, I found that even a few words, spoken quietly, carried more healing than hours of bright talk. By their fruits ye shall know them, not by their phrases. Do not be afraid to say, I don't know. If a student asks, when will the money come? Through what channel? Never hesitate, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. Authority in this work is not omniscience. It is oneness. Omniscience belongs to God. Our part is to bear witness. My doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. When you refrain from promising times and channels, you remove the hook of personal responsibility that tightens fear. You make room for grace to do what law and human prediction cannot. The power of grace has set aside cosmic law. It can set aside your timelines, too. And a guardrail that will save you from harm Give no techniques without spirit. If you are pressed for a trick, decline. Let the student read, sit, and discover grace firsthand. Hand them a paragraph, be still, and know that I am God. Ask them to sit with it until it glows, not to recite it for points. If they want 3 steps, offer 1, conscious contact. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet. If they need help, ask a practitioner or a friend to stand by in silence, not to manipulate, but to witness. This message is not a bag of methods. It is a principle unfolding as experience. The principle has to take root in them. The moment they taste their own manna, you can step back and watch them be fed. I have watched bright people shipwreck themselves on advice they gave too early. They heard a story, an extension granted, a refund given, and rushed out to replicate the out of form. It didn't work, and then they doubted the principle. Don't do that to yourself or to your students. Be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only. Doers means livers, those who live it. Live it until you can meet a bill with peace, until you can say honestly, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, and your pulse agrees. Then, if you must speak, your words will carry the scent of what you have lived. People will feel the presence behind the syllables. Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have, for he hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Contentment is not passivity, it is authority. It is the quiet of one who has seen the root and can afford to let fruit appear in season. So don't try, live it, exemplify it. Say, I don't know where it hasn't unfolded. Keep your hands off techniques until Spirit gives them breath. And when at last you speak, it will not be you speaking, but the Father within you doing the work. Then counsel becomes communion, and advice is no longer a push on the branches, but the life of the vine moving naturally into form. Now, let us be very simple and very plain about the inner method, because if you miss this, you will try to build fruit without a tree. Go into the quiet. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Shut the door on the photograph, on the clock, on the clever plan. No petition, no outline, just recognition. Be still and let the word rise without your help. I am. I is supply. Let it rest there until the breath forgets to hurry and the heart loosens its grip. We are not trying to get something to happen. We are consenting to what already is. Be still and know that I am God. Know, not say. Know, if only for half a moment, that the I that I am is the life, law, and substance of all true form. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Sit as long as it takes for the sense of to me and supply to relax back into one. Now, about timing. Do not force. In spirit, there is always conception before birth. When I consciously make contact with God, I am then at one with every spiritual idea that appears in form. But the forms arrive by season. It may come the same day an unforeseen check, a right conversation. It may be 3 months. It may be 3 years. I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me for you yet. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Conceive this. Today the idea is planted, tomorrow it roots, next summer it bears. If you attempt to pry open the bud, you will bruise it. In due season we shall reap, if we faint not. In other words, keep contact. Let unfoldment keep time. But you say there is mail to answer and a bill to meet. Yes, act responsibly and do it without changing God. Pay what you can, when you can, as led not as sacrifice to fear, but as expression of order. Owe no man anything but to love one another. Answer the call, return the email, do the honest thing that is yours to do quietly without making money your source. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Let every action be an acknowledgement of that ownership. If a partial payment is the present integrity, send it with peace, not apology. If a conversation is given, speak the truth simply and without drama. You are not buying time from a judge. You are witnessing grace in a hallway and watching doors open. And do not travel alone if you can help it. Ask a seasoned practitioner or a friend to stand with you silently, reverently in the awareness of grace. Not to work a result, not to treat the bill, to witness the one. Where two or three are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Let that midst be your sanctuary. A practitioner worth their salt will not promise channels or hours. They will hold you in oneness until the fear that counts your days falls away and the day of the Lord defines itself. Between sittings, keep contact soft and frequent. 100 small turnings are better than one long siege. When the old fight rises at a figure, withdraw a breath length and remember, I and my Father are one. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, a lamp for the next step, not a searchlight for the next 10 years. Take the step you see. Leave the road that is not lit. Often you will find that the next lamp appears only after the foot has moved. What then is the method? Consent to oneness, honor the seasons, act in integrity without making effects your God. And when needed, let another hold the light with you. This is the law of our movement. Conscious contact initiates unfoldment, and the forms of supply appear in their season by grace, not by strain. Hold to I. Let the sap rise. In due course, you will smile at the fruit and hardly remember when you thought the branch was your life. My grace is sufficient for thee. Let it be sufficient now. Let me give you pictures now, because sometimes a picture does what a paragraph cannot. Years ago, I remember it freshly. I walked an orange grove in winter. The branches looked to a city eye like poverty. No color, no fruit, a kind of honest nakedness under a quiet sky. The orchardist, a man without hurry, smiled. You're seeing with December eyes, he said. Sap is moving, roots are feeding. Come back when the tree tells you it's time. In other words, invisible supply was not absent. It was busy below the photograph. You can smile at bare branches when you know what is going on where you cannot see. Now bring that to your wallet. If it seems thin, if the branch looks empty, remember the grove. I is supply. The life is in the root, not in the rind. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Don't badger the branch. Don't staple oranges to it to cheer yourself. Consent to the season. Give thanks for the root. Keep contact with I. And let the quiet sap do what sap always does. You will come round one morning and smile at fruit you didn't force. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He, life itself, sets the pace. Another picture. On a little farm, call it ancestral, because it might as well be there, stood a stubborn dry well. Grandfather shook his head. Father lugged water from the creek. The family learned to live around the lack. One day, after the place had nearly been sold for taxes, a neighbor, more curious than rich, brought a rig to drill for water where the well had disappointed for years. They hit not only water, but a smear of oil, under their feet all along. The earth had been loaded with what they called lack. You see? Invisible supply doesn't become supply because you panic. It reveals because consciousness yields. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Fullness had been present, awaiting recognition and timing. I don't know where your dry well sits. That hasn't unfolded to me. But I do know this principle. There is no law of God maintaining an absence of God. The fullness of I is the substance of form. When you stop treating the bucket and turn to the source, the right idea about where to drill comes. The right men appear. The old map drawn by fear drops its authority. Deep calleth unto deep. The deep in you recognizes the deep under you, and forms respond. And one more for your heart, because this is where so many suffer, the closed door. A client promises a contract and vanishes. A job interview warms and then cools. The letter that felt like sunrise becomes a gray afternoon. In the law mind, this is defeat. In grace, this is protection. He that openeth, and no man shutteth, and shutteth, and no man openeth. A door not given to you is a mercy, not a failure. A seamstress I knew lost what she called her chance the very week rent came due. We sat in the stillness not to chase the door, but to abide an eye. Peace came. The next morning, with no hustle, a different commission found her. One aligned with her true gift, better terms, saner rhythm. Had the first door opened, she would have been trapped in misfit labor for months. All things work together for good to them that love God. Not some things, all things, including delays and denials. In other words, grace redirects to the appointed channel, and often the redirect only shows itself once you stop pawing at the latch. Take these as living parables, not stories to admire and then forget. The orange grove says, don't argue with winter, trust the root. The farm says, don't curse the bucket, recognize the source. The door says, don't pound the wood, honor the one who guides your feet. And hold this quietly as identity. You are not a beggar at the world's back door. You are the place where that infinite presence, reveals itself as message, as opportunity, as orderly timing, as dollar bills when dollar bills are the needed form. This is God unfolding, not a man performing. My sheep hear my voice, and in that hearing, guidance becomes simple. If you must act, act as one carried. If you must wait, wait as one supplied. Invisible activity is already in motion. Trust it more than any present appearance of lack or delay, and you will find yourself smiling at bare branches, drilling where wisdom points, and walking past shut doors into rooms prepared from the foundation of the world. Now let's bring it as near as your next breath, because most of the trouble does not arrive in grand crises. It arrives as a dozen small frights before lunch. This is where short returns save your day. A notification pings, a number flashes, a thought leaps to the worst. Don't fight it. Pause. One breath. Inward recognition. I is supply. Then silence. Not strain. Not a string of affirmations hurled like stones. One breath, one recognition, a few seconds of yielded quiet. Be still and know that I am God. In other words, come home for a moment. Stand in I. You'll find that a dozen of these small returns dissolve more fear than one long, desperate session. Don't try, live it, exemplify it. Let the breath be the door you use all day. Next, release person dependence in the very moment it rises. If your peace hinges on a buyer's yes, a boss's mood, a donor's whim, your God has a face and a fickle pulse. Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils. No man is your source. No woman is your source. No institution is your source. The I that I am is supply, appearing as channels for a season and then moving on. When the email delays, whisper inside, Father, thou art the source, this is but a branch, then silence. If a reply is needed, you will make it from quiet sufficiency, not from begging. If a call is given, you will place it as one already upheld. Watch how the strain drops out of your voice when you stop asking clay vessels to be your God. Now, about envy and the old disease of competition. You hear that another has landed the contract, received the raise, sold the painting. The first motion of the law mind is, what about me? Transmute it on the spot. One breath. I is supply. Then bless. Rejoice with them that do rejoice. Let another success prove presence, not threat. Their fruit says, the sap is moving in the tree, our tree. All mine are thine, and thine are mine. There is no competition in God because each idea embodies its own activity and fulfillment. Whatever abilities or talents belong to you are already within you, waiting their season. Envy tightens the roots. Blessing loosens them. The very moment you bless, you feel your own channel widen, not because you've earned it, but because you have stopped denying oneness. Practical sanity must govern these hours. 2. Pay bills as led, simply and on time when you can, without theater. Decline rash promises. Do not write checks on a mood or vow gifts to prove faith. Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. That sort of testing belongs to the realm of law and pride. Our way is grace and integrity. Let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay. If a partial payment is your present honesty, send it with peace, not apology. Include a plain word of arrangement if led. If an ask comes that would jangle your conscience, wait. Do not swing from fear to bravado. Rest in principle. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Act as a steward of that fullness, not a showman before the crowd. Make these small corrections all day. In line at the market, when the total startles you, one breath, I is supply. Silence. When a colleague boasts and your stomach tightens, one breath, bless. Silence. When an invoice lands, one breath, acknowledge oneness, then answer from peace. Over and over, you are training attention to dwell in cause. Perfect love casteth out fear, not perfect arithmetic, perfect love. And as fear is cast out in these tiny moments, guidance becomes simple, a call to make, an expense to release, a task to accept, a generosity to receive. You will discover that the day is not a battlefield of numbers, but a quiet walk with a presence, step by step, lamp by lamp. Keep to the breath, keep to I. Frequent, small, inward corrections dissolve money fear at its root, and you will find that forms arrange themselves without your pushing, as if the world had remembered who it belongs to. You will know that you are walking in a new ledger when the day stops scaring you. It isn't that the numbers stop moving, it is that urgency drains out of your chest. You forget to rehearse the worst. You check less and rest more. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall put on. Not carelessness, carefreeness. In other words, calm sufficiency begins to replace panic. You find yourself placing a call without the beggar's tone, answering an invoice without the old heat in the throat, and almost shyly forms appear from directions you did not outline. A refund from long ago. A client who had gone quiet and now returns. A neighbor who, without knowing why, lends the exact tool you are about to buy. Do not make idols of channels. Smile at them and remember, I is supply. These are fruit, not root. Another sign is wise restraint. Where fear pushed you to sign quickly and greed glittered and grabbed, now you pause. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. You let the inner weather settle before your yes or your no. Let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay. If your pulse hurries, you wait. If a contract flatters but does not ring true, you decline without drama. If an expense serves your call, you make it from peace, not from proving. You discover that guidance has a feel. It comes without push, a simple rightness lamp to the next step, not a floodlight to dazzle the road. And you learn that delays are not denials. They are the Father's timing. I don't know the hour for you. It hasn't unfolded to me. But I do know this. When action is authored by grace, it carries its own provision. Generosity rises. Too natural as breathing, not as rule, not as bargain with heaven, but as overflow. Freely ye have received, freely give. You bless because you have stopped counting slices of a pie and begun beholding presents. A gift leaves your hand without dread because you know the hand is attached to a root. Sometimes the gift is money. Sometimes it is time or skill or a door you open for another without fear of closing your own. He that watereth shall be watered also himself. In the new ledger, giving and receiving are the same motion, the life of the vine flowing through differing branches. There is no competition because each idea embodies its own activity and fulfillment. Bless and watch envy wither for lack of attention. You will also notice a quiet courage taking the place of bravado. You say, I don't know, when you do not know and the sky does not fall. You refuse to promise channels or hours, and the student relaxes into God. You stop reporting to cosmic law's clerk who tallied penalties, and you live under no condemnation. The law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Old debts of fear get canceled in your sense. You stop sentencing yourself with yesterday's arithmetic. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewed mind, renewed ledger. And here is my assurance, as tenderly as I can say it. Once touched by grace, you do not return to the old state. You may wobble. You may forget for an hour and remember in the next. But you will not go back to worshiping effects as cause. Something has been born, and it will find its stature. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? No bill, no delay, no loud letter. Keep walking. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Sit in your quiet. Make your small corrections. Act as led. Let forms follow. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Walk now in this new ledger where grace writes your days. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Attend to presence. Let presence attend to form. When you need to speak, the words will be given. When you need to move, the path will light. And as you go, remember the simplest sentence we have said, the one that settles the account. I is supply. Keep to I, and you will find quietly and without show that life pays its own way through you.